tonight, stranded on land. Vandals target Mandra's marine rescuers, putting them out of action.
Perth wins the fight as Optus Stadium's Elimination Chamber is televised around the world.
Unions demand their cut as politicians distance themselves from a pay hike for senior bureaucrats.
Calls to overhaul university fees and pay students to study teaching and nursing.
Donald Trump a big step closer to a Joe Biden rematch.
And the Perth suburbs where bulk billing rates are the worst in the country.
Live from Perth, 7 News with Tim McMillan and Angela Tsun.
Good evening, welcome to 7 News. A senseless attack by vandals has left Mandra's coast undermanned tonight.
Marine rescue volunteers are stranded on land, with their largest response vessel likely to be out of action for several days.
It goes beyond stupid. Mandra Marine Rescue's ocean-going rescue boat going nowhere. The life raft sitting in the water next to it is a vital piece of equipment for the safety of the crew, who are all volunteers.
Without our life raft, our vessels are not on survey and they can't leave.
It was around 10:15 last night, a group of a half a dozen youths fishing on a jetty nearby. CCTV picks up to 3 of them leaving the group and walking onto the jetty where the Spirit of Mandra is tied up. They're on the boat and inside the cabin for around 15 minutes.
We can see that they've gone inside. We can see things like our spotlights that we use of a nighttime handheld spotlights. They have been taken out. Some have been thrown into the water.
The CCTV also picks up the moment the life raft is deployed and thrown over the side. The youths leave the boat shortly after, linking up with their friends and fleeing before police arrive. The senseless attack leaves a big hole in the marine rescue network. Mandra patrols halfway to Rockingham, halfway to Bunbury and 30 kilometres out to sea.
This boat is built for very rough conditions out in the ocean, and this is the go-to boat for ocean rescues and searches.
There's no ready replacement for the life raft. It has to be repacked into a metal container. The gas cylinder that helps deploy it has to be recharged, and emergency supplies like food and water have to be renewed. John Stewart and John Jones want the youths who did it caught, but not necessarily to punish them, rather to set them on the right path.
We volunteer to help our community, and that is also helping our kids.
Jeff Parry, 7 News.
Perth put on a show for the world last night, hosting wrestling's biggest ever Elimination Chamber event. More than 50,000 WWE fans flooded Optus Stadium, but in a fight for tourism dollars, it's the millions of fans watching from elsewhere that are the ultimate prize.
Our big stage.
The most remote big city on the planet.
Having a very big moment.
You are looking live at Optus Stadium in the middle of Perth, Western Australia. Over 50,000 WWE fans have travelled here from all over the world.
There were chants, boos and roars of applause as Optus Stadium was put in a WWE chokehold. Last night's broadcast reached 1 billion people worldwide. They tuned in for the performance.
And here comes the Almighty. Oh!
And they got a whole lot of Perth.
Step into a dream in Western Australia.
Picture perfect. The pronunciations, not so much.
Like the adorable quokkas residing on Rottnest Island.
Walk, paddle, or swim into a dream with a dip into the Ningaloo Reef.
It's the kind of publicity money can't buy, but this was bought. The state government won't reveal how much it paid to coax the WWE circus to town, but says it was worth every cent.
One of the biggest events I think we've seen in this state. Last night's WWE Elimination Chamber was a complete success.
More than 52,000 fans packed in. 14,000 of those travelled to Perth for the showdown.
We spent a couple grand just to get here and for the event, everything, and I'll do it again in a heartbeat.
Perth has been an incredible city to host the Elimination Chamber.
WWE lighting up the City of Light. Monique Dirks, 7 News.
Unions are crying foul over a pay increase handed to WA's most senior public servants.
Department bosses have been given an 8% boost to their salary. That's already resulting in others upping their asking price.
Some of WA's most senior public servants taking home a pay rise most would only dream of, $50,000 extra per year.
I can understand how some people would be frustrated with that.
In total, 12 bosses are getting a salary hike. DFES Commissioner Darren Clem, the biggest winner. His wage up $52,000 to $429,000. The police boss now on more than $500,000 a year, as is the Public Service Commissioner and the Under-Treasurer. It's significantly more than the Premier's wage of $377,000 and his deputies $321,000.
These are decisions made by an independent tribunal. It's something that's done away from government.
The Salaries and Allowance Tribunal considers the market rate for executives. This is the second pay increase in less than 12 months for the senior public servants. All government employees received a 3% increase in June.
We know that these people run big agencies, but when they get an 8.5% pay rise and the government is as good as it is giving us 3%, where's the fairness and equity in that?
The Commissioner's wage is 5 times that of a senior constable, stoking the fire as the police union is about to restart salary negotiations. Lucy Murray, 7 News.
An injured mountain bike rider has been airlifted to hospital after crashing badly in Paul's Valley in the Perth Hills. The RAC rescue helicopter braved difficult conditions to land in a forest clearing. The woman in her 60s was taken to Royal Perth Hospital with suspected spinal injuries. She's in a stable condition.
The number of Australians with a university or TAFE qualification must increase dramatically if the country is to reach its full potential.
That's one of the key findings from a major review into the tertiary education sector, which also recommends introducing a pay-to-learn scheme to train teachers and nurses.
400 pages, 47 recommendations, a blueprint for transforming Australia's higher education sector.
This is a big report with big ideas,
suggesting big changes to secure Australia's economic prosperity. Recommending at least 80% of Australians will need a tertiary qualification by 2050, up from 60%. Key will be getting more students from disadvantaged backgrounds, First Nations and country areas to enrol.
A plan that really is about changing lives and changing nations.
To achieve that, the report says the number of university places for local students must double from 860,000 to 1.8 million. The cost of some degrees, including communications and humanities, should be lowered.
Everybody should have the chance to go to university.
While those who do go need more help to finish their degrees, encouraging a government-funded paid prac scheme for teaching and nursing courses, so students required to complete hundreds of hours of work placements don't drop out due to so-called placement poverty.
And if we're going to increase participation, these sorts of innovative models are really important.
The review also recommends an overhaul of student loans, introducing simpler and fairer repayment arrangements, including ensuring debts don't grow faster than wages. The banks can help too, treating student loans differently to personal loans, so they don't limit the ability to get a mortgage.
Now, you can't do everything at once. We don't have to do everything at once.
Suggesting a staggered approach over the next 2 decades, costing billions and outlasting several governments. Rob Scott, 7 News.
Flood watches remain in place, but most of the emergency warnings for the Pilbara and Gascoyne have been cancelled after ex-cyclone Lincoln crossed the coast with a whimper. Carnarvon escaped unscathed while nearby farmers are dancing in the rain.
A perfect storm in all the right ways. Ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln made landfall overnight and the heavens opened above Carnarvon. But not for too long, and without the extreme winds the region was warned to brace for.
Best case scenario last night.
SES crews received just one call for help, reporting minor water damage to a home. And the roads are wet, but passable.
We got some rain, which the community is obviously going to be quite pleased about.
They'll be definitely smiling this morning and there'll be no damage.
Oh look, we're absolutely over the moon.
Cyclone level winds would have been a disaster for these crops. Instead, the storm brought a healthy amount of rain. Here on North River Road, there was 92 millimetres in the gauge. Last year, Carnarvon saw just 54 millimetres for the entire year. 2023, the town's driest on record.
Look, fantastic. We need rain. The farmers need rain. The stations. But gee whiz, they did cause a panic in this society here.
Unpredictable weather, bearing fruit this time around. In Carnarvon, James Carmody, 7 News.
The bodies of murdered couple Jessie Baird and Luke Davies remain missing, with police now searching a new area believed to be a dam south of Sydney. Tonight, questions are mounting over how the police officer accused of killing them was able to use his service pistol.
Evidence continues to be retrieved from the Paddington terrace in which Jessie Baird and Luke Davies are thought to have been murdered. There is a lot to process for police and for locals.
This happening right around Mardi Gras, when it's a celebration of gay life, it just hits that much harder.
In tandem with a homicide investigation are internal questions over how a cop entrusted to use deadly force to protect civilians should allegedly use it to murder them.
If it's proved that he has used his firearm and then returned it to a police station, that is a massive abuse of the actual powers.
A forensic examination of Beau Lamar's Glock pistol and a projectile inside the home allegedly link him to the murders.
They have very strict rules around the way in which police have to look after their firearms.
Rules might become stricter. Lamar is alleged to have sent text messages purportedly from his dead victims' phones to cover his tracks.
To say this has rocked the New South Wales police force is an understatement. Everybody is talking about it. Multiple sources have told 7 News one person above all should be talking about it. Astonished that she isn't.
After mounting pressure, Commissioner Karen Webb produced a written statement. While I cannot comment on the matter before the courts, I can reassure Luke and Jessie's loved ones and the people of New South Wales that we are working around the clock to find those answers. Multiple police sources also tell 7 News they are frustrated by the investigation's secrecy. After Tuesday's triple homicide at Baulkham Hills and North Parramatta, police informed the public within hours. At Paddington, nothing for 24 hours, and only then when media started getting wind of it. And even then, police asked journalists to hold off reporting the suspect was a cop for operational reasons. Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
6 homes have been destroyed and more are under threat in a fire emergency north of Melbourne. There's grave concerns for communities near Ballarat, where fires are still out of control, and extreme heatwave conditions are forecast for Wednesday. Residents return to salvage what they could while they can.
We left with 13 horses, 3 dogs, 2 cats, 3 guinea pigs, 2 teenagers and 2 goats. And that was as much as we could get out.
Reinforcements are now on their way from New South Wales to assist.
Australia has backed American and British strikes on more than a dozen new Houthi targets in Yemen. Underground weapons and missile storage sites, as well as radars and a helicopter, were among the targets as explosions peppered the night sky. The US is also warning of an environmental disaster after Houthi rebels struck a British cargo ship in the Red Sea, causing an oil slick.
Donald Trump is almost guaranteed to be the Republican nominee in November's presidential race. He easily beat Nikki Haley in the South Carolina primary, and tonight the focus is shifting to another showdown with Joe Biden.
South Carolina, polling places shut at 7 p.m. By 2 minutes past,
CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the South Carolina Republican primary.
News organisations had called it.
This was a little sooner than we anticipated.
And symbolically powerful. He beat his only remaining Republican rival in the state where she had served as governor.
I want to congratulate Donald Trump on his victory.
4 states have now voted. Trump has won them all.
Oh, God, I'm just high. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, and I'm so high right now because Trump is our man.
The 77-year-old's grip on America's conservative side of politics growing. Never mind his myriad of court battles and never-ending controversies. Just yesterday, he suggested his infamous mugshot was a vote winner with...
You know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible.
It's disgusting, but that's what happens when he goes off the teleprompter.
Nikki Haley's loss clear-cut, but not quite the 30-point thrashing some polls had predicted, and not enough for her to quit yet.
I'm not giving up this fight when a majority of Americans disapprove of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Thank you very much.
Super Tuesday, the pinnacle of the primaries, is now just a fortnight away. But with Biden on one side, the incumbent, Trump on the other, dominant, the primaries have been made all but irrelevant. America, step by step, locking in a Biden-Trump rematch for November. In South Carolina, Tim Lester, 7 News.
Charlotte Goodlet is here now with the weather, and Charlotte, a not-so-sunny Sunday.
Good evening, Angela and Tim. No, it was a grey end to our weekend. That was to be expected as the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln moved inland. 78 millimetres fell in Carnarvon as the low crossed the coast. It's now likely to cause some gusty thunderstorms and rain through the southwest land division and the goldfields. Perth, though, missed out on most of the wet weather. We did see a few showers, though. Bickley picked up about 5 millimetres. The city recorded 3. Mandurah saw some drizzle too, with a top temperature of 26 degrees. That was actually one of the warmer suburbs today. The city itself only reached 23. Very cool for this time of year, that's for sure. But the sunshine and warm weather will be making a return. I'll have the full details a little later on in the bulletin.
Thank you, Charlotte. This is 7 News live from Perth. Up next, never surrender.
The Ukrainian president vows to win the war. A grim milestone as the war with Russia enters its 3rd year.
Tensions flare in Israel as police clash with protesters.
A fire tragedy as a towering inferno claims more than a dozen lives.
The stolen dog that sparked a police search for its owner.
Plus, bulk billing decline the Perth areas where it's hardest to see a doctor for free. That's later this hour.
Police are trying to identify the owners of a puppy they believe may have been stolen. 3 months old and in good health, according to vets. The animal is tonight in the care of rangers after it was found during an arrest in Como. Anyone who recognises it should call Cannington Police.
Volodymyr Zelensky insists his country will win its war against Russia. Speaking on the 2nd anniversary of Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II, the Ukrainian president was flanked by other world leaders pledging their support.
As Ukraine marches into a 3rd year of conflict, war-torn and weary, its neighbours came with a message.
We're here to tell you that Europe will continue to stand at your side for as long as it takes. There will be a free and sovereign Ukraine.
Still wearing the battle scars, this airport north of Kyiv stands as a reminder of Russia's unrelenting assault. Back where the war started 2 years ago to the day, the Prime Ministers of Italy, Belgium and Canada united in defiance of Vladimir Putin.
We will continue to stand with Ukraine and continue to ensure that Russia does not win this war.
Putin thought he could topple Ukraine in 3 days. He failed at that, but did set in motion the deadliest war on European soil in more than 70 years. Russian murderers, Zelensky says, will answer for what they've done. But to make Russia pay, they need Western support. And for now, America's critical multi-billion-dollar aid package is stalled in Congress.
Where does this end? Very simple. Putin cannot be allowed to walk in, invade a democratic neighbour and be rewarded for doing so.
The outcome of this conflict is still unknown. The forecasts are sobering. And to win, this wartime leader will need to once again muster confidence in Washington and the will to fight at home. In London, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
More on the war in Ukraine, and Kyiv claims to have struck a Russian steel plant on the anniversary of the invasion. The site, 400 kilometres north of Ukraine's border, is said to be responsible for nearly a fifth of Russia's steel output. Moscow says there was no significant impact on its operations.
Police have used water cannons to break up anti-government protests in Tel Aviv. Tensions within Israel are hitting new highs, with some blaming Benjamin Netanyahu for Hamas attacks on southern Israel. Demonstrators took to the streets in a weekly march, calling for his resignation when they were broken up by police on horseback.
At least 15 people have been killed and dozens more injured after fire ripped through an apartment block in eastern China. Footage posted online shows towering flames engulfing several stories of the skyscraper. The fire is believed to have started on the first floor where electric bikes were being stored, but the cause hasn't yet been determined.
Next on 7 News, taxing times.
The government's stage 3 tax cuts about to be put to the test. Still to come, the Prime Minister on the campaign trail ahead of a crucial vote.
Hotel horror, a bouncer killed after asking a drunk patron to leave.
160 metres below the waves, the wreck described as a holy grail.
And crowning glory, a big win for Aussie actress Elizabeth Debicki.
Win a trip to London to see the West End's hottest show. Tina, the Tina Turner musical, is coming to Perth, and to celebrate, we're flying 2 people to see the London production and giving away 50 double passes to experience the multi-award-winning show at Crown Theatre. Get your code word from the Sunday Times or the West Australian for your chance to win.
The Prime Minister has ruled out an early election as he tries to sell his stage 3 tax cut changes ahead of the crucial Dunkley by-election in Melbourne next weekend. It is a Labor-held seat, but Anthony Albanese claims hanging on to it won't be easy.
In Melbourne's southeast, a sea of red, led by the Prime Minister, as Labor tries to hold on to the seat of Dunkley at next weekend's by-election.
By-elections are tough for governments. We know that the average swing against a government in a government-held seat is around 7%, and that's greater than the margin here.
That margin is 6.3%, but despite the political differences, the candidates agree on one thing.
Cost of living pressures is the number one thing.
Cost of living is the number one issue.
Labor is trying to sell its stage 3 tax cuts to the mortgage belt suburbs. Across the electorate, the majority of voters are experiencing negative cash flow, with 90% struggling to make ends meet in Frankston North, and 83% in Seaford and 81% in Carrum Downs.
As a result of our cost of living tax cuts, every single taxpayer in Dunkley will get a tax cut.
People are struggling more than ever now, particularly in the last 2 years under this current government.
Yes, tax cuts, 70,000 people getting a little bit better benefits out of it. Fantastic. But there needs to be a lot more to it than that.
The stage 3 tax cuts are expected to pass the Senate this week, making Saturday's by-election the first real test for the Albanese government to see voters support the changes. The PM shutting down speculation of an early election following leaked messages from his office.
I believe governments should serve full terms. I think 3 years is too short.
Tyra Stowers, 7 News.
More than a week after his death, the body of Alexei Navalny has now been handed over to his mother. The Russian opposition leader and Kremlin critic died in an Arctic prison 9 days ago while serving a sentence on charges denounced as political retribution. Navalny's mother had been fighting for custody of his body, with plans for his funeral still unclear.
A man has been charged after a security guard was allegedly bashed to death at a pub south of Sydney. It's understood the 31-year-old man was asked to leave the hotel when it's alleged he lashed out at the security guard.
Some lady screaming at the top of her lungs, and then all of a sudden I've popped out and there's police cars everywhere, and it's just on for young and old pretty much.
The man has been refused bail.
For the first time in 120 years, we've been given a glimpse of a shipwreck thought lost to history. The SS Nemesis has been found by mistake, sitting in dangerous waters off the Australian coast. Historians have described the wreck as a holy grail.
26 kilometres off the coast, 160 metres down, lies a 1,400-tonne discovery.
A 120-year-old maritime mystery has been solved.
This is the SS Nemesis.
It looks very different now, covered in barnacles and a sanctuary for fish. The Nemesis was used during the gold rush to transport coal.
Today's announcement is one of those really important stories of our maritime history. It's about ships lost at sea. It's about lives lost. There were 32 lives lost when this ship went down in around July 1904.
It was last seen by another ship battling mountainous seas. The pounding waves wrecked the bow so quickly the crew had no time to save themselves. For New South Wales,
it's actually one of the biggest tragedies at sea.
The wreck was only discovered by accident. It Corba makes a living finding objects on the ocean floor.
I knew straight away we were onto something quite significant.
And while it took over a century to find Nemesis, its fate was already known. Parts of the ship started washing up on Cronulla Beach.
It took weeks for some of those bodies to go up with the inshore current.
Because the crew members could not be identified, they were laid to rest here at Warrenora Cemetery in Sydney South, where their graves will never be named. The 31 men and 1 woman left 40 children behind.
We want to know you. We want to be able to tell the stories of what happened to your loved ones.
Leonie Ryan, 7 News.
If there was any doubt left, Hollywood is back after the pain of recent strikes. The Screen Actors Guild honours its best today, with Aussie Elizabeth Debicki named Best TV Actress.
Only Hollywood can make a car park look good. The pre-red carpet sparkle as these stars parked the union troubles of the past for a night of celebration.
After going through a very difficult time with the strike.
A long award ceremony made easier for some and tricky for others.
I forgot my glasses.
After playing Princess Diana in The Crown, Elizabeth Debicki is happy to be herself again.
Do you know what? I've been slowly working my way back into my Australian accent.
And before long, everyone heard it.
Elizabeth Debicki, The Crown.
Thank you for this. It means so much to me. This job is such a gift. It's my mum's birthday. Happy birthday, Mum. Thank you so much.
And a moment to recognise genuine royalty. A lifetime achievement for the brilliant Barbara Streisand, actor, director, singer, and a bulldozing trailblazer for women in showbiz.
I've loved working with you.
Then Oppenheimer exploded, scooping 3 of the biggest awards.
Robert Downey Jr.
That was for Best Supporting Actor. Cillian Murphy went one better, Best Actor.
Looking out on all of you guys here today, I know that I'm part of something truly wonderful, so thank you so much.
And throw in Best Motion Picture Cast.
Oppenheimer.
For a nuclear-powered trifecta, surely making it a safe bet at the Oscars. In the United States, Miley Hogan, 7 News.
Still to come, an eye-watering payday for a pop princess.
Katy Perry performs at a private Aussie party. The most expensive ticket in town, how much it costs to have the superstar sing.
Later, the worrying bulk billing trend that has patients paying the price.
And coming up in sport, all the highlights and fallout from last night's pre-season derby, plus WA's cricket golden era continues, and all the action from a wild weekend at Bathurst.
Start your day in WA with Sunrise.
Beautiful Cottesloe this morning.
WA's only live and local breakfast news.
Jeff Parry in the States North. Brooke, what will these new laws do?
Because to bring you the news in WA, you have to be in WA.
Sunrise with Matt Tinney on 7. Now, Fuel Watch. Perth's petrol prices brought to you by Fuel Watch and 7 News.
Tonight is the final night. 500 drones will light up over Elizabeth Quay for the City of Light show series. It's the finale of the City of Perth summer calendar that's attracted resurgent crowds with parking free at council-run car parks after 6 p.m. Food trucks are on site now with the light show to start at 8.
The Auslan interpreters at Taylor Swift's concert are becoming stars themselves, making the show accessible to everyone while busting a move.
It was just camaraderie throughout the whole crowd. Everyone was enjoying it.
And I just absolutely loved being there. Watching interpreters just make me feel like I can really enjoy the experience.
Taylor Swift has 2 more shows in Sydney before leaving Australia.
Australia's most famous beach is now off limits for alcohol-fuelled parties. Entrepreneurs hosting commercial events on the sand at Bondi have now been banned by the local council after residents complained. The only events exempt from the new policy are Mardi Gras, Sculpture by the Sea and Sydney's City to Surf.
Katy Perry has performed in front of the Prime Minister at a party hosted by one of the country's richest families. It was a massive security operation as fans and two groups of protesters crashed the lavish party held at the Pratt family's mansion.
Inside Anthony Pratt's exclusive Kew estate, a party headlined by Katy Perry. Among the guests was the Prime Minister.
Dancing at Katy Perry last night, you had Tay-Tay on Friday. A big week.
Well, I gave a speech last night at the Food and Beverage annual dinner.
Premier Jacinta Allen also on the exclusive list of some 200 guests. The pop star was reportedly paid around $2 million to perform some of her biggest hits. Outside, there were fireworks. Fans partied at the fence, trying to catch a glimpse of the star.
Now put your hands up. Katy Perry might be performing behind us right now, so I think right there.
Protesters also crashed the party with security, local police and the public order response on high alert. One group calling to free Julian Assange as the guests went in. A second group of pro-Palestine protesters abused the guests as they left.
Enjoy yourselves, you rich.
Katy Perry is the latest A-lister to perform in Australia after Taylor Swift and Pink. This event, perhaps the hardest of all to secure a ticket. Hope Wilson, 7 News.
Routine checkups at the GP are becoming a new political battleground. Still to come, patients left to foot the bill and a bulk billing blow. The Perth area is where the number of clinics offering the service is plummeting. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News.
But first, Ryan has sport, and Ryan, concern for an Eagles big man.
Yeah, there is, Ange and Tim. Matt Flynn, he's gone down after such a strong summit. So the latest on West Coast's new recruit next. Plus, the Bulls are back. Fife and Yeo impress in a derby battle at Lass Lane. And triple treat, WA Cricket's bulging trophy cabinet welcomes more silverware. A pair of old midfield Bulls were back in the paddock last night with Nat Fife and Elliot Yeo the standouts in the pre-season derby. The pair shrugged off recent injury-plagued seasons to lead the way for their teams. Fremantle were too strong for West Coast on the night, home by 52 points.
A fit and firing Nat Fife in the midfield, a welcome sight for Freo fans.
Fife with a bullet, beautiful pass.
Fifey's added some layers to his own game, which complements his own game, but complements the way we play, and he can't just be the bash and crash player he used to be.
Deadeye Jai lived up to his name in last night's pre-season derby. The rising star booted 3 quick goals in the third quarter.
Amos in position A, in the goal square. We'll have 2 in a minute.
Drafty Cooper Simpson pushed his case for a round 1 debut with some eye-catching moments.
And welcome to the big time, young man.
For West Coast, veteran Elliot Yeo's strong pre-season was on display.
Elliot Yeo winding back the clock in many ways.
The midfield Bull hoping to put an injury-plagued few seasons behind him.
Yeo, and he takes it and sends it towards Waterman.
Number 1 pick Harley Reid had a quiet start but showed glimpses of his potential.
The number 1 draft pick delivers magnificently.
I think he showed some good signs. I like the fact that he's trying to take the game on, and that's what we want to see from him. You know, what we've seen from his junior footy, and the reason why we wanted to bring him into our team is he takes the game on and he expresses himself all the time. So we saw some element of that tonight.
Reid sent a scare through the Eagles camp when he went down with a cramp in the final term, but he's expected to take on the Crows in Adelaide on Saturday. Young gun Ruben Ginbey will sit out of the pre-season clash. The midfielder has been placed in concussion protocols after a head collision with Luke Jackson.
Clash of heads, and he's getting taken off the ground.
Key defender Jeremy McGovern is likely to play after missing yesterday's derby with soreness. Meanwhile, ruck recruit Matt Flynn is in a race to be fit for the start of the season after suffering a hamstring tendon injury in Friday's captain's run.
Obviously, there is some tendon involvement, but yeah, we'll obviously be guided by our medical staff over the coming days to what extent that will actually be.
Anna Hay, 7 News.
The Tigers are ramping up preparations for the opening round with a trio of big names set to face the Magpies on Tuesday. Meanwhile, West Aussie Liam Baker is preparing for a more senior role this year under new coach Adam Uze.
The countdown is on for opening round and a date with the Premiers on Tuesday.
I think we'll surprise a few this year. Everyone was pretty quick to write us off. New ideas, the new coach, also new assistants, the energy's up.
Self-professed bad boy Liam Baker set to make an impact in the midfield in his 6th season with the Tigers.
I was probably a bit of a rat bag early days and then somehow grown a bit more mature and stuff. So we need to step up a bit on the field and hopefully in the last couple of years I've been doing that and hopefully it continues again this year.
Dustin Martin, Tim Taranto and Dylan Grimes set to face the Pies after being managed against the D's last weekend. No sign of skipper Toby Nankervis today, who was also rested and is battling a persistent foot issue. Baker knows the critics will be circling this season.
We'll have plenty of down times across the year and they can stick their boots in them, but I'm sure we'll have plenty of ups.
Down the road, Collingwood had their top team on show in a physical session. Braden Maynard back in the mix after missing the practice match against North Melbourne, expecting some minutes in Tuesday's clash at Icon Park. At Hawthorn, former Pie Jack Ginnivan has formed a formidable bond inside 50 with draftee Nick Watson.
Jack have obviously gelled well and we're pretty good mates now, which is good, so hopefully we can connect out on the field easier.
Known as the Wizard for his forward craft, the nickname has stuck at his new club, so too his hunger to make a debut.
They call me the Wiz or Watto out at the club, so it's definitely stuck.
Laura Spurway, 7 News.
WA Cricket's golden run has continued, claiming a third straight one-day cup with a 5-wicket win over New South Wales today. The Blues were dismissed for 168 in 42 overs, but came out firing with the ball, reducing the reigning champs to 3 for 30. Hilton Cartwright proved the difference with an unbeaten 73 off 80 to secure the victory with more than 16 overs to spare, and what better way to win it?
Innings, and Hilton Cartwright with one lusty blow has won yet another trophy for WA. The kings of domestic cricket do it again in the Marsh Cup final, 3 in a row.
It's a surreal feeling for us guys. A lot of us are starting towards getting towards the tail end of our careers, and we understand how much these moments actually mean.
WA has now won 4 of the last 5 titles and 17 overall. That's 5 more than any other state. Steve Smith blew his last chance to impress for a spot in Australia's T20 World Cup squad, out for just 4 against New Zealand today.
Oh, yes, it's a little edge. I thought he might have played and missed. That was the reaction from Smith, but that's a beauty from Milnes.
Rain stopped play several times in Auckland, effectively turning the dead rubber game 3 into a 10-over shootout. The Kiwis set 126 to win after Australia's 4 for 118, falling 27 runs short as the tourists sealed a series clean sweep with a victory.
There'll be chats around, obviously, those final few positions in the 15. Fingers crossed he makes it, but there's always going to be someone that's unlucky. And
the first test starts on Wellington on Thursday. The Matildas are all but guaranteed a place in Paris with Tony Gustafsson. He knows drastic improvements required. A wasteful opening 72 minutes against Uzbekistan was ended by Michelle Heyman's first Matildas goal in 8 years. Mary Fowler put the result beyond doubt.
Oh, fantastic goal. Clinical, individual finish.
Off the bench, Caitlin Ford sealed the 3-0 win.
Our conversion rate must have been really bad. I mean, we could have scored. We left a lot of goals out there today. We need to admit that. That needs to be better on Wednesday.
The Matildas are headed to Melbourne for that game. Wednesday it is, the return leg. In the Premier League, Manchester United levelled with Fulham in the 89th minute before the Cottagers snatched a 2-1 win 8 minutes later, their first at Old Trafford in 21 years.
It will be! And Fulham look to have stolen it at the death.
Manchester City moved within 1 point of leaders Liverpool, 1-0 over Bournemouth. Arsenal thrashed Newcastle 4-1, sitting 1 point further back. In news that surprised absolutely nobody, Bryce Cotton was named as the Wildcats MVP for this season. It means he joins Ricky Grace and Sean Redditch as the only players to win the Mike Ellis medal 6 times. Cotton and the Cats are preparing for the playoffs. Their campaign begins on March 8. Chaz Mostert's Mustang could be the great hope for stopping another Camaro cakewalk this year. Under surveillance for race 2 of the supercars season, the opening lap was a mess at Mount Panorama before Mostert emerged clear, hunted by the 2 Red Bulls. But a pit stop hold-up allowed Will Brown to steal the lead and victory in his first round with the 888 heavyweights.
I'm absolutely knackered. It was pretty hard out there. I had Chaz just pushing me along. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit gutted.
Still worthy of a shoey while Brown leads the championship. And Aussie Jordan Thompson has had a career breakthrough today. Thompson won his maiden ATP Tour title in Los Cabos, Mexico at 29 after 11 years as a pro. Thompson took out Alexander Zverev, then beat Casper Ruud in straight sets in the final. Now, guys, before I go, have you heard of the name Harley Reid?
What, just in the last hour?
Well, just every day for the last 2 months.
I think so. Multiple times.
Number 1 draft pick.
That's right. Now,
very good, Ange.
We have the only interview with Harley Reid, and it airs tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So tune in.
Very good.
Thanks,
Bit of hype around him.
Just a bit.
Thanks, Rhino. A new report card on bulk billing has labelled WA the sickest of the states.
Every part of the state has recorded a drop in the number of people able to see a doctor for free, forcing patients to miss treatment or head to the emergency department instead.
Checkups are essential, but the cost of going to a GP isn't checking out.
You have twice as many people across the country who aren't going to see a GP because of cost in just 1 year.
More than a decade ago, a Medicare rebate was designed to cover 85% of a standard consult.
It now covers about 40%, and that gap has been passed on to patients.
Incentives were increased last November for GPs to bulk bill children and concession card holders, but the trend is going the wrong way in WA.
In Western Australia, there was not a single electorate where bulk billing rates went up over the course of 2023.
Bulk billing rates are now in single digits in 10 of WA's 15 electorates, Pearce, Perth and more recording the worst, but Burt recorded the biggest drop, from almost 2/3 of patients being bulk billed to only 12%.
87% of electorates across the country saw a decrease in bulk billing rates over the course of 2023.
And there's little change when it comes to gap fees. Rebates were frozen nearly 10 years ago.
Funding in general practice has dropped by $800 million in the last year.
A cut that needs more than a band-aid. Jessica Page, 7 News.
Charlotte Goodlet's back, and Charlotte, is the week ahead looking a little brighter than the weekend's been?
Yes, Tim, after a gloomy couple of days, we are looking forward to that sunshine returning. I'll tell you how warm the last week of summer will get after the break.
On 7 News, how 2 Harvard-trained doctors are turning the battle for weight loss on its head. No surgery, no anaesthetic, no medication. Just swallow a tiny capsule and walk out 30 minutes later. Now in Australia, patients losing 10 to 15% of their body weight. On 7 News.
Welcome back. Well, what a difference a week makes. Last Sunday, we were sweltering, and then today we actually only made it to 23 degrees. That's about 8 degrees below the monthly average. Right now, it's hovering around 22, and it was a mild day right across the suburbs. 24 the top in Scarborough, Fremantle and at the airport. Mandurah hit 26 degrees, so did Rockingham. Kalamunda only made it to 19. We also saw some showers come in from the north. 5 millimetres fell in Bickley at around lunchtime. The city received 3. There was rain too through the Goldfields and the Eucla, some low temperatures as well right across the state. Kalgoorlie and Margaret River got to 21 degrees, Esperance a top of 22. Now, that wet weather is thanks to ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln that crossed the coast last night as a low. It caused some big falls through the Gascoyne. Carnarvon picked up 78 millimetres overnight, but then today, barely a drop. The wet weather is on the move. This broad band of rain will reach right to the south of the state tomorrow. Looking at the rest of the country, autumn is just days away, but the east coast will get a final serving of summer as the heat we've experienced heads that way. Adelaide is only getting to 29 tomorrow, but it will ramp up as the week goes on. Sydney heading for 28, a few showers, a little wet in Brisbane too. Melbourne and Hobart will both reach 21 degrees. Back in WA, some high temperatures through the interior, and then there will be some rain through the state's south. As you can see, those coastal communities up north that were on cyclone watch this weekend are now looking
looking pretty dry tomorrow. On the waters, the winds will start off easterly, 10 to 15 knots, and at lunchtime they will increase and shift to southwesterly. So after our cool weekend, we are looking forward to a much warmer Monday, 32 degrees, and it will be mostly sunny. It is also looking a little windy as well. Tuesday, a top of 29 degrees. The overnight temperatures are getting a little cooler too. 30 degrees the top on Wednesday, 33 and sunshine on Thursday, warming right up on Friday. We're forecasting a beautiful 36 degrees. We might see a light shower as we get toward the weekend, but it will still be warm. 34 on Saturday and Sunday. Team, thanks for having me this weekend. I'll see you again on Saturday.
It's been great and the forecast is looking good. Thanks, Charlotte. That's 7 News for now. I'll be back with updates throughout the evening.
For the latest stories, head to 7news.com.au. Enjoy the rest of your night here on 7.